The Kosovo Specialist Chambers is now in session.
Be seated. Madam Court Officer, please call the case.
Good morning, Your Honors. This is case CBC 2020-06, the Specialist Prosecutor versus Hashim Thaçi, Kadri Veseli, Recep Selimi, and Jakub Krasniqi.
The record will reflect that all the accused are present in court today. Just a reminder that next week we have no session on Monday, so we will be Tuesday through Friday next week. First, the panel would like to note that the accused should please wait for the panel's authorization before speaking in court, particularly when a witness is testifying. Should the accused require the assistance of counsel, he should attempt to do so more discreetly. Please ask one of the team members nearby to summon your lawyer if that's what you want, and we will always pause the proceedings so you have an opportunity to consult with your attorney. Moving forward, I'd be grateful if counsel for the accused could assist in ensuring the witness's testimony is not disrupted. Second, the SBO has tendered and the panel has admitted the transcript of an ICTY video interview with W04290 dated 19 November 2003 as P02026. The panel notes, however, that the SBO did not tender the underlying video for admission. The panel would therefore like to clarify whether the SBO intends to also offer the video for admission.
We're happy to do so, Your Honor.
Is there any objection by the defense to admitting the video as well as the transcript? It would be some help to the panel.
No objection.
All right. So attached to P02026 will also be the video. Is that okay to do it that way, Madam Court Officer?
That's absolutely fine, Your Honors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll now continue hearing the evidence of prosecution. Witness W04290. Madam Court Usher, please bring the witness in. Good morning, Mr. Salimi.
Good morning.
Record that duty counsel, Mr. Cecchini, is also in the courtroom, as he has been throughout this witness's testimony. Mr. Salimi, I remind you to please try to answer the questions clearly with short sentences. If you don't understand a question, feel free to ask counsel to repeat the question or tell them you don't understand and they will clarify. Also, please remember to try to indicate the basis of your knowledge of the facts and circumstances upon which you will be questioned. I remind you that you are still under an obligation to tell the truth as stated by you in your solemn declaration. I also remind you that the assurances provided to you on Monday by the panel, namely that any response provided to relevant questions will not be used either directly or indirectly against you in any subsequent prosecution before the special chambers, except under Article 15, Paragraph 2 of the law and Rule 65, which are still applicable, and that refusal to give testimony may be sanctioned with an imposition of a fine. Please also remember to speak into the microphone and wait 5 seconds before answering a question, and then speak at a slow pace for the interpreters to catch up. And if you feel the need to take a break, please let us know and we will do our best to accommodate you. We continue now with questions from the judges. We will start with Judge Metro, seated to my right, your left.
Thank you, Judge Smith, and good morning, Mr. Salimi.
Good morning.
I'd like to go back to a number of facts and circumstances that you've discussed with the parties, as I would like to get a bit more clarity on some of the issues you've testified about. And I'd like to start with the evidence you gave regarding the Precaz group. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Is it right that, as you said last week to the SPO, you knew that before the war, Adem Yashari had regular contacts with the general staff? Are you able to confirm this?
Yes.
I take it that you knew this because he, Adem Yashari, told you so, or was your source of information another one?
I did not know it. However, I knew that Adem Yashari maintained contacts with other people and groups throughout the Drenica operational zone and beyond, including in the West.
Well, let me read to you what you said. That's preparation note number 1. That's now exhibit P2029, paragraph 13. You said, and I quote, Adem Yashari was in continuous contact with the general staff. Is that correct?
I don't know if the general staff existed and to what extent. However, I know that Adem Yashari in general kept contacts with various people throughout, and that is the context within which I said that.
Are you changing your account now that you don't know of Adem Yashari having contacts with the general staff?
Dice Adem Yashari că a fost contact.
I know that Adem Yashari had contacts with all the people around him. I do not know who he maintained direct contacts with, but I know that he was in contact with various people in various groups because he was the principal man within the Kosovo Liberation Army.
When you were giving evidence, sworn evidence before the ICTY on January 2005, you asked in court whether during this time Adem Yashari was in contact with the general staff, and for the record that's exhibit P 2027 at page 2060 and 2061. You said, yes, it is normal that Adem Yashari had contact with the general staff, and he had contacts that I was not aware of because I was not at the level that I would know about his activity and the general staff, but it is known that he had contacts not only with the general staff, but also with other countries, as far as I know. And it goes on. So, I'll ask my question again. Were you aware at the time, or did you become aware at a later stage, that Adem Yashari had contacts, or as you said, continuous contacts with the general staff before the war?
Som prapo
I am repeating the same thing now, which I stated then. Adem Yashari had contacts with all, and I don't know where the general staff existed then, but he did have contacts with the general staff and with everyone else.
You knew in particular, I hope you can confirm this, that he had contact with the son of your uncle, Recep Selimi, before the war, correct?
po,
Yes.
Introduced one to the other. Is that right?
po,
Yes.
Between Adem Yashari and Recep Selimi was in 1994. Is that right?
po,
Yes.
And I hope you can confirm this, that Hashim Thaçi, Kadri Veseli, and Jakub Krasniqi had contacts, and for some of them, meetings with Adem Yashari before the war. Can you confirm this?
në takime nuk kom qenë prezent.
I was never present at any meeting, but I think and I know that they did have contacts.
You know in particular because Mr. Veseli and Mr. Thaçi said so in your presence. Is that right?
Jo, në pranin time nuk.
They did not say this in my presence, no. But
Exhibit P186, please. Do you recall being shown that document earlier this week, sir?
Po,
yes, I do.
At the Yashari house in Pekas on the 18th of February of 2001, and present, among others, is yourself, Hashim Thaçi, Gani Kotsi, and Kadri Veseli. Do you recall?
po,
Yes.
Can we please go to the fourth page of that document? That's ERN 00226188. Now, in the English, I'll ask you to look at the statement that's attributed to Mr. Hashim Thaçi under Samilu Shtaku. Do you see that?
po,
Yes, I do.
It says that Adem Yashari was already informed about the establishment of the KLA. Many meetings were held, and there was an intensive exchange of opinions. Do you see that?
po,
Yes.
Page a little bit. There's another statement attributed to Mr. Thaçi below Kadri Veseli. Do you see that?
po,
Yes.
The proposal for the name came from Kosovo. We all know that there is a document signed by Ahmet Hadjiu in 1991, which I handed over to Adem Yashari. Do you see that?
po,
Yes.
Page, please. And here, if we can go to the bottom in the English, please, and the Albanian as well. There's a statement attributing to Kadri Veseli just under Gani Kotsi. Do you see that?
Po.
Yes.
Attributed to Mr. Veseli is, we all know that we went to Adem and that everything was decided in Adem Yashari's house. Adem Yashari was and remains the commander. Do you see that?
Po, sir.
Yes, I do.
Page, please. You will see that in the bolded part under number 3, it says that the following people took part in a meeting held in Adem Yashari's house in April 1993, and among the attendees were Kadri Veseli, Jakub Krasniqi, Hashim, Thaçi. Do you see that?
Po.
Yes, I do. Correct.
Looking at this record of a meeting to which you participated, does that help refresh your memory about the fact that Mr. Thaçi and Mr. Veseli said in front of you that they had met with Adem Yashari before the war?
As you can see, this is a meeting which was held after the war, and the discussion was about earlier event. However, I cannot recall the content of these conversations. I know that I took part in that meeting. It included everyone, it was all inclusive, but I cannot recall the details of what each and everyone said at that meeting, because I cannot recall simply.
To the first page of that document, please. Now, can you look at the list of participants, if you may? Are all the individuals in that list, like yourself, from the Drenica region?
Budget.
Yes, all of them.
Mr. Thaçi and Mr. Veseli, is that right?
Zoti Veseli nuk e di se është.
I am not aware that Mr. Veseli is from Drenica.
Mr. Krasniqi, do you know if he is from Drenica, and I mean Jakub Krasniqi?
Po.
Yes.
Edhe ky.
Yes, he is also from Drenica. Yes.
Po, gjithashtu.
Correct, yes.
Paul, who organized this meeting,
Jo, nuk më kujtohet.
No, I don't.
do you recall who invited you to attend that meeting?
Saksisht nuk më kujtohet.
I cannot recall exactly. Someone from the family member, referred to someone like that.
Adem Yashari.
Nuk jam I sakt, po dikush prej tyne më ka tregu po.
Yes, I mean the Adem Yashari family. I'm not sure who of the family invited me to that meeting.
Last week, and if necessary, we'll go to the record of that, you also told the prosecution, that's Prep Note 1, paragraph 13, that you knew that Adem Yashari was receiving orders from the general staff. Do you recall saying this?
Adem Yashari.
Adem Yashari was the main person. He was the commander of the Kosovo Liberation Army. My meetings with him were face to face. Adem Yashari had contacts with everyone.
Focus more specifically on my questions and answer only that. You said last week in your preparation session with the SPO at paragraph 13, and if you want I'll read it verbatim to you, that Adem Yashari was receiving orders from the general staff. Do you recall saying this?
In that case, that is wrong. Adem Yashari did not receive orders from the general staff, but he issued orders or consulted the general staff with those individuals that were known to him.
You changing the order here. Last week, Adem Yashari was receiving orders from the general staff. Today, it's Adem Yashari who's giving orders to the general staff. Is that your evidence today?
I think that is a mistake. I don't believe that I said that Adem Yashari received orders. I have said he gave orders. He was in a position to give orders. He was not in a position to be given orders. He was the principal commander. Without Adem Yashari, there wouldn't have been any KLA.
Can the registry please bring up the video of Mr. Salimi's interview with the ICTY? It is now part of P2026. It's ERN V00-4792. And I'll ask the registry to go to timestamp 50 minutes, 30 seconds, please. So what I'm about to show you, Mr. Salimi, is something you've already seen earlier this week. It's the video of your interview with the ICTY, and for the record, the corresponding transcript is at page 15 and 16. So I'll ask the registry to play that part. So listen carefully, Mr. Salimi, and I'll ask you my question afterwards.
And, Your Honor, do you want to do this in public session?
I see no issue not to.
It's fine with us as well.
Were they in charge of Drenica at this time, or?
Kush ishin ta komandante, ishin të përgjegjës për Drenicën apo?
Këtë kohë alo vetëm komandante Adem Yashari.
At this time there was still only the commander Adem Yashari.
Ishte grupi, do të thotë, ishte këtë vërtet me tiket grupi i tij, apo domethënë edhe ai tash me formi me ardhen e njerëzve ndryshme, me vullnetarë ndryshme atë të bëjë edhe zgjenimin, domethënë ka qenë edhe qëllimi jonë që sa më shumë të rregullohen njerëzit, domethënë.
We were all of his group, we were his circle, so when there were more people coming in, when it started growing, then the aim became to expand the
But did Adem Yashari then, did he have a contact or a reporting responsibility to the general staff? Do you know about this?
Po Adem Yashari, nëse e di, Adem Yashari vetë a kontaktonte ndonjëherë, reportonte ndonjëherë ke shtabi përgjithshëm?
Po, ai vazhdimisht ka pas lidhje domethënë me shtabin e përgjithshëm.
He had continual contacts with the general staff.
Ai gjithmonë ka qenë domethënë kontakt vazhdueshëm me shtabin e përgjithshëm, edhe shtabi i përgjithshëm, ata antar shtabit përgjithshëm që bëhen konsultu me Adem ka qenë figura kryesore e ushtrisë.
He was in frequent contact with them, and the members of the general staff also consulted Adem always, because he was the main figure in the army.
But
the central figure.
I know that at this time Drenica was the main area in Kosovo. Was there similar activity going on in other parts of Kosovo?
Unë e di që në këtë kohë Drenica ishte baza kryesore në Kosovë, ishte pika qendra kryesore në Kosovë, pa kishte edhe zona të tjera në Kosovë ku po ndodhte e njëjta gjë.
Normal, në këtë kohë ka pasur edhe vëmendje ndryshme, si duka gjënë edhe në lab, ka pasur edhe më herët, po nuk mund një njofton në këtë periudhë domethënë. Ka qenë ata shtatet përgjithshëm të cilët kanë pas pjesë të vet edhe në domethënë në gjitha zonat.
There were, of course, there were other areas as well, like in Tokajin and Lab, for example, but we did not know them. They were the members of the general staff. They had their own people in this area.
Okay, but the general staff had like, do you think they had a plan, or they had control over what was happening in the different areas, like in Lab, Tokajin, Drenica?
Shtabi përgjithshëm mendojnë që kishin një plan, e kontrollonin këta se ç'po ndodhte në Lab, në Tokajin apo në
Normal çdo gjë që është bën me plan të shtabit përgjithshëm. Me plan shtabit përgjithshëm. Edhe për shembull të zëmë në Drenica atë është komunikuar prej komandantit. Komandantit legjendar dhe mjashore që shkon detyrat e tona. Mirë po, për njëkohësisht edhe për zona tjera, njëjtën plan e kanë marrë për shtatet përgjithshëm në zona tjera. Gjitha kanë qenë kontrolle, gjitha kanë qenë koordinuar nga shtatet përgjithshëm.
Naturally, there was some coordination. For example, the legendary commander at Demyashari, he would give us the orders, but we think that other people in other areas, they also got their orders from somewhere. There was a plan.
Okay.
Çdo sen çdo gjë ka qenë organizuar nga shtatet përgjithshëm.
Everything was organized by the general staff.
Okay. Do you think that they or
Does that help refresh your memory, sir, about where the orders were coming from and in which direction they were going?
Po nuk e dia ka kuptim nëse Adem
I don't know if this is meaningful where Adem Meshari was not a member of the General Staff. I've explained this sequence of events. Adem Meshari was the main organizer.
I'm asking you whether you've heard yourself saying who was giving orders to whom.
çdo herë mund
I can state throughout that the main man within the Conservative Liberation Army was Adem Yashari. I explained what I thought the General Staff was organized like. That is simply my opinion. But given that I myself was not a member of the General Staff, what I stated there were my own opinions only.
I see. Now I'll ask you about your role as General Commander of the KLA. I'll tell you what I understand the circumstances to have been, and then I'll ask you my question. So sometimes between the middle or the end of February 1999, you were chosen to be the new General Commander of the KLA. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Last week, you told the prosecution, that's preparation 1, paragraph 6, that you could not exercise your function as General Commander until the Rambouillet delegation came back because you needed to get back into communication with them beforehand. Do you recall saying that, and is that true?
Yes.
In your Zeri interview, that's P1745, you said, and I quote, Recep Selimi, so you're talking about that meeting with the other operational zone commanders and a couple of representatives of the general staff, you said, Recep Selimi said that the UÇK would approve who would be elected commander from this meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Recep Selimi say on the video yesterday. Do you recall?
Yes, that is correct.
Before you were designated as the choice of your fellow OZ commanders, it was agreed that the General Staff would approve the choice, correct?
Yes.
Tuesday this week, that's page 25021, you explained that the operational zone commander selected you, then to be approved, and then you were formally appointed afterwards by the general staff. Is that a correct understanding of the process?
Pa.
Yes.
And you, after this meeting, you went back to Drenica. Is that right?
Pa.
Yes.
Say that you did not take up your new position as commander of the KLA until after you got the approval of the general staff. Is that right?
I don't know that I said until I received the approval. I said that I received my appointment and stayed in Drenica. I didn't go to other areas.
Now, I'll ask you a few follow-up questions on that then. Did you, when you go back to Drenica, did someone replace you as the operational zone commander?
Pa.
Yes.
When that was?
På att natt.
On that same night when I was selected as a general commander. In that same decision, Samil Ushtaku was proposed or appointed there.
Who is it that assigned or appointed Samil Ushtaku to replace you in that capacity?
Att operatör.
He was deputy commander, so automatically he was my deputy in the operational zone in Drenica, and when I moved to my new position as general commander, he moved to the position of Drenica operational zone commander. There was no any need for any other decision.
I want to ask you what you did in that new role of yours, the short period of time when you were general commander of the UÇK. We know, because you've said so, that you signed off on preparations for Operation Arrows, and then you left the next day. Is that right? You left your position, I mean.
Pa.
Yes.
What else you did as commander of the KLA during these 4, 5, or 6 weeks that you held the position?
I know that after I was made general commander, I held a meeting probably a week later. A meeting in Berisha or some other village, I don't know. Bislim Zirabi, Recep Selimi, I think Fatma Lima was present as well, and some others. I think Commander Drini was there as well, and somebody else, I can't recall now.
Purpose and result of that meeting, what happened during that meeting?
During this meeting, I met with them, and upon their proposal, Commander Drini's proposals, some technical matters were discussed. So this was a meeting amongst us, after which I returned to Drenica.
Moving Commander Drini around. Anything else you recall having decided as the commander of the KLA at that meeting?
Yes, said some good.
No, I don't know. I don't recall.
During that time as commander of the KLA, did you report to anyone?
Yeah.
No.
Do you have a staff assigned by the general staff to support your new role, or were you relying on your Drenica staff?
Yeah. For personnel,
There was no staff whatsoever, including in the general staff. When I went there were these individuals, and when I came back, I found my staff, my people.
Other than the meeting we've just discussed, did you, during that period of time, meet again with any of the general staff members, Mr. Thaçi, Mr. Veseli, Mr. Bashota, Mr. Krasniqi? Did you meet with any of them during that period when you were the commander of the KLA? Fatmir Limay?
yeah, no computer.
No, I don't recall meeting any.
Communique or political statements during your time as commander-in-chief, or commander, I should say?
Some computer, more.
To my recollection, I didn't.
Meetings or contacts with the staff from the various directorates of the general staff?
With the exception of Bislim Zirapi, I don't think I had any other contacts.
You had no contact, for example, with the head of the Directorate for Intelligence and Counterintelligence, and no contact with the head of the Directorate for Military Police. Is that right?
As far as I can remember, I did not have any contacts.
Did you issue any order to other members of the general staff?
Yes.
No, I don't recall any.
Anyone during that time other than the one that pertained to the move of Commander Drini?
Yeah.
No, I don't recall any.
Now I want to move to the next stage of your career, if I can put it that way, the period of time when the so-called provisional government of Kosovo is being created. And I'll maybe ask the registry to bring up ERN 125424. And sir, so that you know what you are looking at, it's the record of your meeting of last week with the SPO. It's preparation note number 2. We don't have an Albanian, unfortunately, so I'll read out to you the relevant part. And I'll ask the registry to please go to page 15. That's ERN 125438. And I'll look at paragraph 91, please. So the following is recorded as what you told the prosecution, Mr. Selimi. It says this: the provisional government of Kosovo also came into being right around this same time, meaning that yourself never reported to them in your time as General Commander. I'll stop there with perhaps the first question. Do you confirm that during your time as Commander of the KLA, you did not report to the provisional government? Is that correct?
Paul.
Correct.
Goes on to say this government came about when representatives of all political parties got together and the delegation led by Hashim Thaçi was given the mandate to make this government. Do you recall saying that?
Paul.
Yes.
Goes on to say 4290, that's yourself, does not know exactly how Agim Cecu reported to the provisional government, but he should have reported to the Ministry of Defense and ultimately Prime Minister Hashim Thaçi. Do you recall saying this?
Paul.
Yes.
3, please bring up Exhibit P1101. So, sir, I'll give you a moment to acquaint yourself with the document. As you can see, it's a combat report. It's dated the 26th of May of 1999. And if we can go maybe to the next page, I'll come back to this one. If you look at it, it is signed by Agim Cecu in his capacity as Chief of the General Staff. Do you see that?
Paul, sir.
Yes, correct.
The first page, please. It is being sent to the Defense Minister, Mr. Azem Sula. Do you see that?
Paul, sir.
Yes, correct.
Is this document consistent with your understanding that at the time Agim Cecu was Chief of Staff of the KLA General Staff would have been reporting to the Defense Minister, Mr. Azem Sula?
Just a correction, Judge. It should have been reporting, is what he said, not would have been reporting.
Is it consistent with what you said?
Paul.
I believe it is.
And then you said that in your understanding, hierarchically, the Minister of Defense, as a cabinet member, would have been reporting onwards to the Prime Minister. Is that right?
I have to correct that. He did not say would have been, it said should have been.
So I'll make Mr. Mišetić happy. In your understanding, hierarchically speaking, the defense minister should have been reporting to the Prime Minister. Is that right?
I believe that according to the hierarchy, it's correct.
Now I want to ask you about your role in the National Guard. I was not entirely clear what happened there and what you did. So first, you were appointed to head the National Guard. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
First, tell us who it is that appointed you to that position.
The provisional government.
Well, is it the provisional government or is it someone within the provisional government?
I had never seen the order for appointment until yesterday. This was communicated to me over the phone, meaning that the appointment was made by the provisional government. I had not seen the decision that it was made by Mr. Thaçi.
Let's take this one step at a time. Recep Selimi, when he was interviewed by the SPO, that's Exhibit 763.5 at page 13, was asked that question. And can you perhaps confirm that when you are appointed to be the head of the National Guard, Recep Selimi is a member of that provisional government? Is that right?
Yes.
Who appointed Suleiman Selimi as commander of the National Guard? His answer is the Prime Minister. Now, do you have any reason to dispute Recep Selimi's account on that point?
No, I don't.
In fact, as you said, you were shown a decree or decision appointing you to that position by the SPO. Is that right?
That's correct.
The decree was signed by Hashim Thaçi in his capacity as Prime Minister, correct?
Correct.
I have to object to that lack of foundation in that question. If you could pull up the document to see if it was signed by Mr. Thaçi.
Can we please see Exhibit P112, please, in English, and the Albanian is in P813. And for the English, it would be, I believe, at page 3. Thank you. If we can scroll down a little bit. Thank you. I'll first point to the one we are looking at right now, decree number 84. I'll wait until the Albanian comes up for you, Mr. Selimi. So first, we see decree 84-99 that appoints Agim Ceku to be the chief of staff of the General Staff. Do you see that?
Yes.
Scroll down the page. You can see that on the same date, there's decree 85. So take a second to read that. And if we can turn the page, please. Top of the page, please. Thank you. Is this, sir, the decree that appoints you to be the head of the National Guard?
According to this, yes. But I had not seen this document until yesterday.
That the decree comes with or is attributed to the Prime Minister Hashim Thaçi on behalf of the Provisional Government of Kosovo. Do you agree with that?
Correct.
Just in relation to my earlier objection, if we can check to see if it's signed.
Now, you explain that, or I understood you to explain, or I'll ask it that way to you, because I'm not quite clear what you said. Was the National Guard ever created? In other words, did it function in any way, or did it not?
Until the formation of the institutions, or rather until the transformation of the KLA into KPC, the Guard of Kosovo did not have specific tasks. I led this with a group of people to fulfill ceremonial duties and tasks.
Further specification there. What stuff was put at your disposal? How many people were under your leadership within the National Guard?
Between 10 and 15 people who were there.
And what did you do concretely? Tell us what, as the National Guard, you did concretely, not in theories, but what activity did you undertake?
We mostly were in the process of preparing ourselves to have a structure. This was not put on the paper, though, because we still didn't know the shape, form, number, name. Would it be a guard or some other form? As a result of all this, we were not able to carry out tasks or functions.
I see. So you did not, in fact, perform any ceremonial duty. You can't think of a single ceremony that you attended with the National Guard, or is there?
Correct. There's no ceremonial event in which we took part. We did not have the equipment or the structure and to fulfill that, so we were in the process or waiting for the future structure. This was decided later on.
And who did you report to as the head of the National Guard, if to anyone, about your activities or, as you put it, your preparations?
To Agim Cheku in his capacity as the Chief of Staff.
Would you report to him about this?
We were in daily talks about the structure, the demobilization process, so we had constant daily contacts.
Thank you. Now, we've seen a moment ago the the decree, and I'll come back to it if necessary, the decree appointing Agim Cecu to be the Chief of Staff of the General Staff. Do you recall the documents that I showed you a moment ago?
Yes.
I think it was yesterday or the day before, Mr. Mišetić asked you who had appointed Mr. Cecu, and he showed you part of an interview of Mr. Cecu on this matter. Do you recall this exchange?
Yes.
Interview, Mr. Cecu is recording as claiming that his appointment had been made by the General Staff. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Assuming for a second that Mr. Cecu is being truthful and that the record of his interview is correct, you would agree, I suppose, that members of the General Staff or those with contacts with them might have been in a position to know who appointed him to that position. Would you agree?
Yes.
Selimi was asked that question. That's P763.5, page 13. And who appointed Agim Cecu as Chief of the General Staff of the KLA? His answer, the Prime Minister. Bislim Zirapi was asked the same question. That's P1355, part 11, page 20 and 21. Question, so just to be clear, was Agim Cecu appointed by Hashim Thaçi? Answer, yes. Later, yes. And then further he says, yes, yes, because it was the Prime Minister at the time that made the replacement of myself with Agim Cecu. Now, do you have any reason to dispute the accounts of Recep Selimi and Bislim Zirapi on that point?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Agree with the suggestion that their account is consistent with the decree we saw just a moment ago.
Yes, they seem to be consistent.
Now, I want to ask you about two small matters that you discussed with Council. The first one is Ferracciala. You indicated that Ferracciala at some point went from the Pelumbi unit to the General Staff. Do you recall that?
Yes, correct.
Do you recall having had any contact with Ferracciala after the month of May of 1998?
I don't recall.
Do you recall seeing Mr. Ferracciala in the Drenica zone after May 1998?
I don't recall.
You said that you did not know what position he went up to hold within the General Staff. Would you know at least in which directorate of the General Staff he moved to?
I did not have this information. I don't know.
Middle or end of February 1999, you become the commander of the KLA. Did you inquire what his role was, or did you look into who were heading or deputies in the various directorate of your command?
Yes, I'm interested.
No, I did not inquire. I don't know.
For instance, at that time in February of 1999, who was heading your own directorate of the intelligence at the time? And who was perhaps deputizing within that structure?
Yeah, can we post this information?
We had some pieces of information, but nothing detailed, because I stayed in Derenice. I didn't really deal with those matters. I knew that Mr. Veseli was the director of G2, but he was not. I do not know what position Mr. Sharla had there.
Maybe after the war, later, when you started interacting with other entities, what Mr. Shala was doing, or still not?
Yes,
No, I didn't deal with Mr. Shala. I don't know. I don't remember.
Witness, we'll take a 10-minute break right now. Please do not discuss your testimony with anyone outside the courtroom, and you can leave the courtroom with the usher. We're adjourned for 10 minutes.
All rise. All rise.
Be seated. Please bring the witness in.
Your Honours, while the witness has been brought in...
Just a second. Go.
I just wanted to raise it without the witness being present. We have got some concerns about the questions that were asked at the end regarding Mr. Sharla. These have already been expressed in our filing of November last year, F02718, regarding measures taken to ensure the impartiality of the proceedings. And my concern, Your Honor, if I may just finish briefly so I can put it on the record, is that these are not clarifying questions. They are questions which are seeking to build a case, put a case from the bench. That's the matter we've addressed in our motion. These are properly questions which should be asked in re-examination and not by the bench as our submission. So I did wish to reiterate that and ask that there's a ruling made, Your Honours, in respect of our outstanding motion. Yes, this is the one of 13 November 2024, F02718.
Our ruling is we will continue with the questions as we have. The questions are allowed by the rules, and that's any question on any subject.
Yes.
And so that's what we will continue to do. So your objection is overruled.
Yes, all I'm saying is in our motion we've asked for certain protections for the rights of the accused, the appearance of impartiality and fairness in the proceedings, and we wish to those to be addressed. And I'm reiterating them again today because they've arisen in the questions that we've just witnessed in relation to Mr. Sharla. Not clarifying questions, but questions which are putting a case consistent with the prosecution case.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you, Your Honours.
You may bring the witness in. All right, Mr. Salimi, we will continue now with questions from the bench. Judge Mitro.
Thank you, Judge Smith, and thank you, Mr. Salimi, for your patience. I'm almost done. There's one last matter I want to ask you about. It's questions that were asked by Mr. Dixon for Mr. Veseli. And
excuse me, could we be quiet, please, in the courtroom?
thank you. You expressed the view repeatedly, as I understood, that you did not believe the claim of Sabit Getsi that he was part of the intelligence and counterintelligence service of the KLA. Did I understand this correctly?
Yes.
Text, you were also asked by Mr. Dixon about an article that you wrote and was published in Botasot. Do you recall?
Yes.
185 for the record. And I understood you to tell Mr. Dixon in relation to that article that you wanted your own truth, in other words, your own version, as you believed it, to be heard about by the public about these accusations that you are addressing in that article. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
Now, if you did not believe that Mr. Sabit Getsi was part of the intelligence service, why did you include it in an article where you wanted the truth to be heard?
You kommer att beröra sign att
I was referring to what had in fact occurred and to what Mr. Getty had stated.
Yes, but if you said, as you did repeatedly yesterday, that you did not believe this account and you wanted the truth to be known, why did you include it in your statement?
I don't know the reason. I only included it on the basis of the statement made by Mr. Getty to me.
Those were my questions.
Judge Gaynor.
Thank you, Judge Smith. Good morning, witness. And the first subject I want to address are interrogations at Leacott's. At page 25002 of the transcript of 11th of February, that's 2 days ago, you were asked, were there interrogations of arrested persons at Leacott's? And your answer was, there were no arrested persons, in my opinion. There were perhaps people questioned or interrogated or something of that sort, but not arrestees, unquote. Do you remember giving that answer?
Yes.
Interrogations.
Where they were detained at border points, for instance, or on the points of entry or exit from Drenica, wherever they were detained and asked where are you heading towards or who are you, and questions of identity and something like that.
Carried out that questioning?
The individual who was manning that point would ask the questions.
Soldier or a military police officer?
Regardless of the tasks of the individual, if there was an individual who was unknown in the area, he will be questioned.
Just clarify for us. Was it mainly soldiers or mainly military police officers?
besøker Stara. Det
I believe soldiers, if a policeman would have been there, it would have been the policeman, but mainly it would have been soldiers who were at that point.
In February, you also said, quote, the military police dealt also with civilians or with disciplinary matters involving soldiers. Now, do you remember giving that answer?
Yes.
Matters involving civilians would the military police be dealing with?
Mr. Chris med might.
It was mainly to do with law and order in Lukotsk because there were large numbers of people who had arrived, and so it was mostly keeping law and order, procuring or securing medical supplies and so on.
I think you've told us, this is P2026 at page 43, that the purpose of the military police was to improve discipline in the army. Do you remember saying that?
This is a role that they undertook to possibly the improvement of discipline. That is, yes, it is accurate.
Improve discipline in the army. Why were they dealing with civilians?
Because there was a need for them on the part of the civilians. There was a market there, large numbers of people, and there was a need to maintain law and order and discipline there.
Need? What are you referring to? Could you be more specific, please?
Because there may have been occasions of abuse or confrontation. There were large numbers of people who had arrived in Lukotsk from other areas. So at a certain point in time, one of their tasks was the maintenance of law and order.
Presence within the civilian population of people who were assisting the Serbian forces.
No, at this point in time there were many displaced people, and military police offered assistance to them, but not from the point of view of inquiring or questioning.
Did you have concerns that some of the civilians were assisting the Serbian forces?
I did not have that concern. There was the larger concern that the concern from the Serbian forces who were in large numbers and were shelling, and there was a large population congregating on Lukotsk. So we tried to help them find their whereabouts and assist them in other ways.
3 of P2026. You were asked, did you create the military police in your area when you created the brigades? And your answer was, by the order of the General Staff, so as to improve discipline. There was a team in every brigade, about 5 or 6, 7 or 8, which was under the brigade. Their headquarters was in Lukotsk, close to the General Staff of the zone. Unquote. You recall giving that answer?
Yes.
You received that order from the General Staff?
the zone commander decided on the military police and sent its proposals upwards to the general staff.
Yes, but my understand from the answer you gave in your interview was that you created the military police by the order of the general staff. My question is, when did you receive that order?
I cannot recall having received that order. I can't recall.
One point I wanted to check was the call sign 101, which was assigned to you. Who assigned that call sign to you?
In the majority of cases, we decided that ourselves. And I did that within the operational zone, including drawing on call signs which we used when we were simply guerrilla units. We took that decision ourselves. I myself decided on 101. It seemed fairly suitable to me.
I think we saw in a document earlier that there were a number of different call signs with different numbers. So surely there must have been somebody deciding who gets which number. Is that right?
Ja, Masham.
Yes, in the majority of cases, it was us deciding amongst ourselves, and on the basis of ours, others took a decision. But in the majority of cases, we did it ourselves. I decided, for instance, on 101 for myself as the call sign.
Of Kadri Vaseli as head of intelligence within the general staff before SHIC was formed. You said you were aware that he was head of intelligence. And my question is, when did you become aware that Kadri Vaseli was head of intelligence on the general staff?
The point where I was assigned to be commander of the general staff.
Previously, I think you agreed that you knew that he was head of G2 on the general staff. We're going back in time, sometime during 1998, and I wanted to establish when that was.
I do not know exactly. Maybe towards the end of 1998 and the beginning of 1999, but I cannot be certain about it.
That he was head of intelligence on the general staff.
I learned that when I was appointed commander of the general staff. At that point, I learned of the existing structures.
A point of linguistics. Could I ask Madam Court Officer, please, to bring up 1D00070. This is a document which was shown to you. I understand, Mr. Witness, that you do speak some English, is that right?
Yes, I understand.
Now, this document which you've seen before was issued on the 2nd of April 1999. And I want to just clarify the translation of a couple of expressions. You'll see that Minister of Public Information is the office at number 1 under the list of ministers. And the word for public information is informie mit public. And you see that.
Yes.
Have a look at number 6. That's the Minister of Kosovo Intelligence Service. And you see that the original obviously is Sherbi mit informativ te Kosoves. And you accept.
That's correct.
Translated as Kosovo Intelligence Service in the English version.
Yes, besöker något sagt.
I don't believe it to be correct. The Minister of Intelligence and should be informative is something else.
There's lots sipas shibas doesn't.
If you follow the Albanian intelligence service, maybe this should be informative includes those. I believe both point to the same. Minister of Intelligence and Minister of should be informative.
Expression Sherbi mitiv informativ te Kosoves. That is consistent with the acronym SHIK, isn't it?
Initialet är bara där man har
The initials, yes. The acronym for it is SHIK.
Are you familiar with the National Intelligence Service of Albania during the 90s, which also was known by the acronym SHIK? It's not on this document, it's a separate question.
Bakom det jobbet.
Yes, I heard about it, yes.
And to know the name of that agency.
Should be informativ kommentar.
Thank you. And
The National Intelligence Service of Albania.
the word national is represented in the Albanian language by kombatar, which is why that also has the acronym SHIK. Isn't that right?
Yes, I think so. That it is the Albanian Intelligence Service.
So, is my understanding correct that during the war in Kosovo, the expressions SHIK and ZKZ and G2 were used on an informal basis interchangeably to refer to the intelligence and counterintelligence service of the KLA?
They can be the same. ZKZ is one thing, the intelligence service is another thing. The intelligence and counterintelligence is a service you have within the structure, a unit which deals precisely with intelligence and counterintelligence, conducting a reconnaissance of the enemy forces and capabilities, so it's not the same.
That may well be the case, but prior to the establishment of the SHIK for Kosovo, the intelligence service of the KLA was known as the ZKZ, was it not?
I cannot say it. I cannot say that it is the same as an intelligence service as per the structure.
I'll ask you from this direction. When you were typically referring to the intelligence service during the war, what expression did you use on an informal basis when you were discussing the intelligence service with other persons?
We didn't use any term in particular or structure. I don't recall having ever used the name intelligence service.
Well, we've heard reference to G2, to SHIC, to ZKZ. Could you enlighten us as to which of those three terms, for example, you may have used when referring to the intelligence service? During the war.
The war circumstances are entirely different. At the time, I did not use intelligence and counterintelligence terminology in my zone. I don't know about the other zones.
I'll move on to a separate subject, Mr. Witness. This concerns the expression of dissent by zone commanders. And for the other people in the courtroom, this is page 25060, and this was on the 11th of February. And you said, quote, "It is correct that as zone commanders, we did have concerns and dissent, and I myself, I have given various opinions and concerns, as have other zone commanders. And this was all to do with the improvement of the functioning." Do you remember giving that answer?
Yes.
Express your dissent to the General Staff?
I often had dissatisfactions in relation to the General Staff. I am able to explain further in detail the reasons for that.
So could you indicate who in the General Staff you expressed those concerns to?
I expressed my concerns in this meeting. In wartime, we're using this big word, General Staff. In peaceful times, it's a large entity with a whole infrastructure, staffed with a considerable number of people. Whereas now we're talking about a general staff which was nearly non-existent, was poorly staffed with very few people, disorganized. So every time we needed support or had a request to them as a zone, we did not know who to direct it to. We did not receive any logistical or other sort of support in terms of our operations, weapons supply. So we're talking about a general staff with very few members whom you probably never met. Based in a small building, premises consisting of a private house with 2-3 rooms. So these were part of our complaints, and probably consisting of unprofessional, non-military people. So these were sort of concerns that I expressed probably on many occasions, including towards individuals.
In particular?
For example, I expressed criticism towards the Deputy Commander for Operations. Or perhaps also towards Mr. Krasniqi. because of technical reasons. Reasons which at the time during the war were obvious to me. I did not have support, I did not get supplies, I had no operational plan. For example, the deputy head of the operations was never on the ground to help and support in the conduct of the combat operations, provide support with weapons or other forms of support. So you need an operational general staff to be in charge and provide the necessary required support to the zone. As a result, the zone commander had to deal himself with all this, the operations, the analysis and evaluation of the circumstances and the actions to be taken. And for these reasons, I've expressed my concern and criticism.
Is that you saw the expression of dissent as a way to make the KLA function better. Is that right?
That's correct.
The expression of dissent by the zone commanders to be insubordination?
Every commander had their own needs and perhaps criticism expressed towards the general staff. And every commander was independent in their decisions, depending on the terrain and circumstances in their zone.
The principal reason why some zone commanders did not agree to the first draft of the agreement at Rambouillet. And you said, I don't have the precise page, but it was on the 11th of February. You said, quote, the draft contained a provision that the Serb forces would not leave the territory, would not withdraw. We would have to disarm. So that meant for the KLA to lay down weapons and for the Serb forces to continue to stay in Kosovo, close quote. Do you recall saying that?
Paul?
Yes.
Commander, it's perhaps not entirely surprising that you were alarmed at the prospect of being completely disarmed while the enemy forces remained in your territory and they were completely armed. Is that a fair summary of your concern?
Yes, that's correct. And also that this text, the first draft, did not foresee the independence of Kosovo, and in our opinion, in our view, it was not in our favor at all.
Sent by the zone commanders on those 2 points to be a form of insubordination.
We expressed our opinion. If in fact our opinion was not to be considered, it would have been difficult for the delegation to come to a decision because the zone commanders had the responsibilities and controlled the ground. I wouldn't say it was insubordination, it was rather a suggestion.
Occasional expression of dissent by the zone commanders strengthened or weakened the command structures within the KLA.
I think this strengthened it, did not weaken it. They also strengthened the position of the delegation there.
The subject of the process of consultation for appointments within the KLA, including the general staff of the KLA. At page 25058, you were asked, quote, did you believe that the zone commanders should be consulted about appointments to the general staff? And you agreed with that. You said, yes, I think we ought to have been consulted in order for a better and more successful organization overall. And when you were asked why, your answer was, quote, because zone commanders were the ones who had responsibility on the ground, unquote. And you went on to say, quote, it would have been important for the organization of the entire structure of the Kosovo Liberation Army and of the general staff in particular, unquote. You remember giving those answers?
Yes.
Explore in more detail the explanations that you provide. Could you explain why you thought it was good practice for the zone commanders to be consulted about appointments to the general staff? Why was this good for the structure or the functioning of the KLA?
I think the zone commanders knew better the terrain and the situation on the ground. And they knew the people. In this sense, it would have been better. This is what I thought at the time.
This process of consultation lead to a greater acceptance by the zone commanders of the authority of the general staff?
The zone commanders had always the competence and the authority to operate in the zone.
My question is about the consultation process. Did the fact that you were being asked your opinion, you being the zone commanders, do you think that increased the chances that you were going to accept who was going to be on the general staff?
I think this would have led to a better organization, a more successful one.
I want to turn to something you said in your Zeri interview, which is P01745, page 23 of the English. And you were discussing the period around the culmination of the Serb offensives. And you were asked about the presence of Hashim Thaçi in the Drenica zone. And you said, quote, Hashim Thaçi had come to maintain contacts with the zone commanders to ascertain our needs and our situation in general. We were waging a war. Hashim's presence was important for morale. He was very calm in the war. He was not scared at all, unquote. Do you remember saying that?
I would have said that in the interview, because I don't recall this, I haven't seen it.
That's what you recorded as saying in the interview. And I want to focus on his visits to the Drenica zone. Did he make several visits?
I don't recall how many visits he made. I recall meeting Mr. Thaçi on 1 or 2 occasions, no more than that.
Met him Did you express to him the concerns that you talked about a few moments ago about the lack of weapons, the lack of ammunition, perhaps, the lack of proper planning? Did you express those concerns to him?
I don't know. Mr. Thaçi at the time was more in charge of the information and political representative. I only know that I met with him. And discussed with respect to internal matters, I rather discuss this with my own people around me. I don't recall having had any such specific conversation with Mr. Thaçi.
Quite serious Serb offences. You were consuming a great deal of ammunition, were you not?
Yes.
Of running out of ammunition, and were you concerned? I think you've mentioned earlier, you're concerned about the quantity of weapons you had.
We often lacked weapons, but I do not recall having discussed this with Mr. Thaçi. This was obvious.
I believe those are all my questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Witness.
Any follow-up by the prosecution?
Briefly, Your Honor, and I am hoping to finish by the 11 o'clock break.
Okay, and let me just ask ahead of time, will there be some questions from the defense side as well?
Yes, I will use about an hour, Mr. President.
We'll go ahead and finish this up, then we'll break for the half hour, then we'll come back.
Witness, I want to ask just a few follow-up questions on something you told Judge Gaynor just now. And this is at page 33 page 33 of the real-time transcript. You were asked if you had concerns that some of the civilians were assisting the Serbian forces, and you said, I did not have that concern. Do you remember this part from earlier?
Yes, correct.
Sir, could now please put P115 on the screen in English and Albanian. This item is in the SPO's first presentation queue. And witness, just to set the stage for this, on 5 February 1999, were you still the zone commander in the Drenica operational zone?
That's good.
5 February. I think I was.
5 February.
Yes.
Yes.
See on the top of the page, it said 5 February 1999, what we have in the English, and then it says Radio Free Kosovo on the top. And it says, communique issued by the headquarters of the Drenica operational zone. And I'll just read the beginning of it. The headquarters of the Drenica operational zone appeals to and obliges all citizens in the municipalities of Glogoc, Klina, and Skenderaj to stop, as a matter of urgency, all activities which assist the enemy. In particular, it asks that we should not submit ourselves to narrow personal interests, such as the arranging of personal documentation in the Serbian administration. Now, witness, this is talking about citizens stopping activities which assisting the enemy, including even personal documents. Was the zone and yourself really not concerned about civilians assisting the Serbs?
I was referring to Likovs, the civilians who was in Likovs. and the military police maintained order there. The question was, were you concerned of any potential informants? And then my answer was, I did not have that concern.
But if you did not have that concern, why did your zone issue a communique appealing to all citizens to stop activities assisting the enemy?
Näistä kapos
When this was issued, there were perhaps other circumstances. I first don't know who issued this. Obviously, there was a concern regarding people who would give information away or collaborate. My previous answer was related to the question about the military police in Likots.
Answer that you don't know who issued this. Perhaps I can assist. If we can go to the next page of this document. This is how this communique ends. The impression must not be created by any action, behavior, or attitude on the part of citizens that the occupying authority is recognized in any way at all. It is unacceptable and reprehensible for any sort of assistance to be requested from those who kill women, old people, and children. It is said in the communique issued by the headquarters of the Drenica Operational Zone and signed by Suleiman Salimi, the zone commander. So witness, it was you who issued this communique, was it not?
Yes, correct.
All right, we'll take a half-hour break at this time. Witness, please do not discuss your testimony with anyone outside the courtroom. We're adjourned until 11:30.
All rise. All rise.
Be seated. Mr. Helling, we need to have some guidance on witnesses for next week. We don't have it. We have very little information at the present time and would like to have that week filled out with people.
Your Honors, unfortunately, that doesn't look like it's possible. We have had an issue with a witness who was scheduled for next week who now can't testify until the week of February 24. We have been trying to fill the week, but at the moment, the only confirmed witness for next Tuesday is W04491.
That's going to impact your time you have to get this thing over with.
We're aware, we're accounting for that, but at the moment we don't have many witnesses left to replace the missing days, and our efforts have been unsuccessful.
Well, we hope that you continue to try to find something and let us know as soon as possible. Please bring the witness in. Witness, we have some questions from the defense as follow-up to the judge's questions, which is part of our process. Go ahead, Mr. Misitich.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Salimi.
Good morning.
I'd like to start with some questions that Judge Matro asked you about some decrees allegedly issued by the Provisional Government of Kosovo on the 28th of April, 1999, which allegedly appointed Mr. Ceku as General Commander. Do you recall those questions by Judge Matro?
Chief of Staff, I think it was Mr. Mishetic.
Chief of Staff. Thank you for the correction, Your Honor.
Paul.
Yes.
Decrees were unsigned.
Paul, Bosch.
Yes, I did.
Mr. Mishetic, I don't want to interrupt you, but you made the point when I asked my questions about this, whether these decrees were signed or not, and I'm not quite sure what your definition of a signature is, but in fairness to you, may I draw your attention to P113, which you used on Tuesday, I thought, page 25075, where it is said that this enters into force and was signed by Prime Minister Hashim Thaçi, so it might be helpful to determine what you say is a signature and what is not, because it's not clear to me.
I'll have to pull up the document now.
If it helps, it's the archive of Radio Free Kosovo. The ERN is 008557 to 8008560 ET, and I think you used it at page 25075 and following.
Yes, Your Honor is correct. We used the same document as well on Monday, and it's in the SPO presentation queue.
Yeah, the claim is that somebody claims that there was a signed document, but there is no signed document.
Again, I repeat, I don't know what your definition is, but the evidence says so here. So I'm not quite sure what you.
Well,
if you mean,
if I could just clarify, are you saying that because there's a hearsay claim that a document was signed, that constitutes a signed document?
No, what I'm saying is that the signature can be anything other than a handwritten signature, and I'm not sure whether we misunderstand each other on that point.
I don't think there's a misunderstanding. My understanding of documents, particularly in this context, is they bear an actual signature with a stamp. In the context, for example, of all the official documents that we've seen from the KLA, that would be the process. But
go ahead.
Thank you. I'll repeat my question. Did you notice that the documents that were put to you, the decrees, did not have an actual signature on them?
Yes, that's right.
We'll put to you that what you were shown came from a book published by Kosovo Press in 2016, and that there is no contemporaneous evidence in this trial that any such decrees were announced in 1999. Do you understand the point?
Yes, I do.
Date of this alleged decree, 28 April 1999. Now, on my questioning on Tuesday at transcript page 25075, lines 2 to 8, you told me that you stopped being the general commander about 2 to 3 days after the NATO bombing began, so roughly around the end of March. Is that correct?
That's correct.
KLA was not without a chief of the general staff or a general commander from the end of March until 28 April 1999. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, Agim Cheku was the chief of staff.
Was in fact the chief of staff sometime from at least early April 1999, correct?
Well,
yes.
Have appointed him to that position before this alleged decree on 28 April 1999. That's also true, isn't it?
Yes, correct.
During my cross-examination, the interview of General Cheku, which I will tell you, he gave in March of 2000, so less than a year after he became the chief of the general staff, where he said that it was the entirety of the general staff that appointed him. Do you accept his recollection of his own appointment, given 11 months after that appointment, may be more accurate than the recollections of people like Zarapi and Recep Salimi, given 20 years after the event in the context of criminal investigations? Do you accept that?
I don't know how Mr. Cheku perceived it, what kind of meeting that was, what form was it held, or format was it held under after I handed over my duties.
Didn't know about any decision of appointment by the, allegedly by the Provisional Government of Kosovo. Let me show you a document. This is, Madam Court Officer, in the original document, SPOE 003-46185 to SPOE 003-46197 at SPOE 003-46187, and an English translation provided by the Thaçi Defense, DHT 05002 to DHT 05002, please. I think it's the next, 187 should be the... Now, you see on your screen a document with a stamp. The General Staff of the KLA, in the context of reorganization and new circumstances, issues a decision. Agim Cheku is appointed Chief of the General Staff of the KLA. This is an equivalent post to that of General Commander of the KLA until his selection. Suleiman Salimi is appointed Commander of the National Guard of the KLA. This decision enters into force immediately, April 1999, Kosovo, with a stamp of the General Staff. Do you see that?
Well,
yes.
Sense and explains how General Cheku could have been Chief of the General Staff from early April 1999, doesn't it?
Paul?
Yes.
That you only know of your own appointment based on what you heard on television when I asked you this during cross-examination, correct? You never received an appointment letter to the National Guard.
That's correct.
Of this?
It's the stamped copy. That's what we have. That's what we got from the SPO, Judge. Mr. President, I tender this document into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection to just the one page.
And that's all we want, Judge. Yeah.
I'm sorry, is it 8.5?
8-7.
8.7, okay.
Yes.
SPOE 000346187 is admitted.
Your Honor, that will be assigned Exhibit 1D249. I note it's public in legal workflow. It should stay public.
I see no reason why it would be confidential. Yeah.
Public, please.
Thank you. You were asked by Judge Matro, you were shown a document from the 26th of May of General Cheku reporting to the Defense Minister, Azam Sula, and then you were questioned about your testimony that, in your opinion, Mr. Sula should have been reporting to the Prime Minister, Mr. Thaçi. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Additional documents. And just keep in mind, that report was 26 May, so that's at the beginning of Operation Arrow, the second phase. Do you understand?
Yes.
Original Q, if we could please have Exhibit 1D00206, please. This is a news article that shows that while Operation Arrow was underway, on the 27th of May, Mr. Thaçi was in Paris. Do you see that?
Post, sir.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
I'll put to you and read into the record in case the parties are interested. P0522 establishes that on the 30th of May, Mr. Thaçi was in London. 1D00207 establishes that on the 1st of June, Mr. Thaçi was in Bonn. 1D00208 establishes that on the 3rd of June, Mr. Thaçi was in Cologne. So essentially throughout the conduct of Operation Arrow, Mr. Thaçi was in Western Europe. You have no basis to know whether Mr. Sula could have even reported to Mr. Thaçi while Mr. Thaçi was in Western Europe. Is that fair?
Exactly.
Yes, correct.
I'd like to ask you some questions to follow up on some questions that Judge Bartha asked you, and Judge Matro to an extent. Actually, not to an extent. They both asked you a question about your testimony that you could not take up your position as the overall commander of the KLA, and you were waiting for the delegation to return. And I'll pull that up. Yes, you said in Prep Note 1, paragraph 6, that you could not exercise your functions as general commander until the Rambouillet delegation came back, because you needed to get back into communication with them beforehand. So I'd like to explore now the chronology of events. If we could please have on the screen, Madam Court Officer, DHT 05003 to DHT 05009. at page DHT 05007. Unfortunately, we only have this in English, so I will read it to you. If we could make it bigger and scroll down, please. This is Radio Free Europe, published on the 23rd of February. So roughly 10 days after that meeting that we discussed where you were selected to be the new overall commander. And it says, the UCK General Staff has named Suleiman Salimi, a 29-year-old regional commander and hardliner, as its commander. RFERL's South Slavic Service reported on 22 February. Unnamed UCK sources confirmed the appointment, which the daily Kosova Sot had announced earlier that day, but others denied it according to Reuters. A Serbian court had earlier sentenced Salimi in absentia to 20 years in jail for terrorism. Now, this article points out that you were publicly declared or acknowledged in Kosova Sot on the 22nd of February as the new overall commander. And you'll recall earlier in my cross-examination, I showed you an article that confirmed where Albin Kurti stated that on that same evening, the 22nd of February, you had a meeting with Adam Damaci. So do you accept that as of at least the 22nd of February, you were holding yourself out as the new overall commander of the KLA?
I don't know the exact date at this point.
Report that on the 22nd of February, you were announced in Kosova Sot as the new overall commander of the KLA. Do you have any reason to dispute that?
No, I don't have any reason.
Tender this document into evidence, please.
Objection?
None, Your Honor.
Just a single page.
Yes, that's fine.
DHT 05007 is admitted.
It will be assigned Exhibit 1D250, and I know it's also public in legal workflow.
That's fine. Public is fine.
Reclassified as public, please.
Now I'd like to establish with you when the delegation returned to Kosovo. So if we could please first pull up 1D69, please. It might be in our original queue. Yes, in our original queue. Now, Mr. Salimi, I'm showing you this document. This is the agreement between Hashim Thaçi, Ibrahim Rugova, and Recep Çosia, signed in Rambouillet to form the Provisional Government of Kosovo. Now, I'm only showing you this document just so you note the date in the upper left-hand corner is 23 February 1999. So the day after you were publicly announced as the new commander of the KLA, the Kosovo delegation was still in Rambouillet, completing at least one agreement. Do you accept that?
Yes.
I'd like to show you a book written by Nuhi Batucci, specific dates of when some of the members of the delegation returned to Kosovo. If we could please have Exhibit P1264 at page SPOE 00128796, please, and the same in the Albanian. This is Mr. Bertucci's book. If we scroll down to the bottom of the page in both versions, please. Actually, it should be page 796 in the English, numbered page 426. Yes. If we scroll down. So here's what Mr. Bertucci writes. When the Kosovo delegation, some representing the KLA, returned from Rambouillet on 25 February 1999, a reception was organized. If we could turn the page, please. By the people, which was magnificent, especially by the KLA officers and soldiers. The KLA delegation members who arrived were Azem Sula, Kosovo Liberation Army General Commander, Jakub Krasniqi, Deputy Commander, and Ram Buja, KLA General Staff Member. The head of the Kosovo delegation to Rambouillet, Hashim Thaçi and Javed Haliti, had gone to Tirana. Do you accept Mr. Bertucci's account that Jakub Krasniqi, Azem Sula, and Ram Buja did not come back to Kosovo until 2 days after you had publicly been announced as the new commander of the KLA?
I have no knowledge of the time of their arrival, but I can see the book by Mr. Bertucci.
Do you have any reason to dispute Mr. Bertucci's account that Mr. Thaçi and Mr. Haliti did not come back to Kosovo, but instead went to Tirana?
I have no reason to go against it.
Mr. Tich, you included Mr. Krasniqi in those who did not come back to in your opening. If you look at the transcript of line 15.
Yes, that's how I read this. No, he did not come back until 25 February, I said.
In the book, it says he made a statement for the media.
On the 25th. That's how I understand it. They returned on the 25th, and then he gave a speech.
I misread it then.
Okay, yes. Now let's try to establish, Mr. Salimi, when Mr. Thaçi actually returned to Kosovo, and this is related to the question about your appointment and whether you waited for the delegation to return, and it's also related to Judge Matro's question to you, specific question as to whether you had met with Mr. Thaçi while you were the general commander. So let me just show you this document. Madam Court Officer, if we could please have DHT 05010 to DHT 05019 at page DHT 05018, which is page 9 of the PDF, and it's the same in the Albanian. Now, this was published on the 9th of March, 1999. Witness. So let me read it to you, and there is an Albanian version, I believe. AT, no? Oh, it sorry, it's just DHT 1518 in the Albanian. What?
18, 19.
I apologize. DHT 05018 to DHT 05019 AT. So let me read it out. The report, and again, keep the date in mind, 9 March 1999. Reuters reported today that in a statement by its news agency, Kosovo Press, the KLA headquarters conditioned their signing of the Rambouillet Agreement on a halt to all Serb military activities in Kosovo. Talks will continue, the KLA statement said. KLA spokesman Jakub Krasniqi told Kohaditore that the signing will take place once all rebel leaders are back in Kosovo. That includes Hashim Thaçi, who has been in Albania for several days. Reuters reported yesterday that, quote, Thaçi went to Albania after the negotiations, but an unnamed Western diplomat said he may now have returned secretly to Kosovo. I understand he's back in Kosovo now and should be able to get in touch with other KLA leaders, the diplomat said. The Independent from London reported today that at a ceremony Saturday, March 8th, marking the first anniversary of the killing of KLA founder Adem Yashari by Serbian security forces, KLA Chief of Staff Suleiman Salimi, quote, warned that the rebels would not accept a compromise. Halfway measures to independence are unacceptable unless they lead to full independence, he said. And if we scroll a little bit further down, there's a sentence that begins, Hashim Thaçi in Tirana on Sunday. It's in the paragraph above the paragraph that starts Washington Post, towards the middle of the paragraph. It says, Hashim Thaçi in Tirana on Sunday, which is March 7th, was quoted by Reuters on March 7th saying that the process continues and has taken a very positive direction towards a signing of a deal. So, Mr. Thaçi went to Tirana from Rambouillet, and as of March 7th, was still in Tirana. The diplomat says between March 7th and March 9th, an unnamed diplomat says he believes Mr. Thaçi secretly returned to Kosovo. And if we go to the bottom of this report, the Washington Post reported, it says the Washington Post reported Sunday that former U.S. Senate Majority Leader Robert Dole sent as an envoy by the Clinton administration to push for the Kosovo Albanians to sign the agreement, but denied a visa to enter Yugoslavia, quote, said Saturday at a news conference at the U.S. Embassy in Skopje, Macedonia, that the Albanian leaders, quote, will sign tomorrow. Dole was reported to have spoken with KLA spokesman Jakub Krasniqi on the phone, but the New York Times reported Sunday that Thaçi, quote, skipped the Albanians meeting with Dole on Friday, March 7th. Perhaps most embarrassing, Mr. Thaçi could not be found, even after what an administration official called a scouting party was sent to look for him in Tirana, Albania. So, according to this article, Mr. Thaçi went from Rambouillet to Albania and was not in Kosovo through at least 7 March, when he was known to be in Tirana, and could not have returned to Kosovo before 8 March 1999. So you were the general commander of the KLA for at least 2 weeks before Mr. Thaçi returned to Kosovo. You did not need to meet with him before you could begin to be the KLA overall commander. Do you accept that?
Paul?
Yes.
Well, I have one more question on this document. Is this article correct that on the 8th of March, 1999, at the commemoration of the fall of Adam Yashari, you were still publicly opposing the terms of the Rambouillet Agreement?
Common seat.
It is possible, yes.
Tender this document into evidence.
Any objection?
None, Your Honor.
DHT 05018, which is page 9 of the document, is admitted.
Your Honor, can I ask for clarification because we also see 05019 on the screen, which was the continuing page.
2 pages. It's 2 pages. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
DHT 05018 to DHT 05019 and its corresponding Albanian will be admitted as 1D251 and it's marked public, Your Honor.
Remains public?
Yes. Thank you, Your Honor. Now, again related to this and the specific question asked to you by Judge Matro about any meetings you may have had with Mr. Thaçi, and he included any meetings you may have had with Fatmir Limay. First, I'd like to see if we can refresh your recollection. If we could have the video, please, at P01294, beginning at the 7-minute and 3-second mark, please. P01294.
Thank you.
Seven-minute and 3-second mark. If we could stop right there. Mr. Salimi, do you recognize yourself as the person seated on the right-hand side of this still?
Paul?
Yes.
To your right?
Thaçi.
Mr. Thaçi.
Immediately to his right.
Mr. Limay.
Location?
Yes, Sedi success.
I do not know exactly, but I know this was shortly before they traveled to Rambouillet.
If I told you it's Ladrovts, would that refresh your recollection?
Yes, I think it is Ladrots. I wasn't able to remember the name. Remove the cigarette.
Do you recall the event now? I believe you said you did. You knew that it was as they were leaving for Rambouillet, correct?
Yes.
And the date is the 13th of March, 1999. Do you accept that?
Paul?
Yes.
First of all, you saw that there was media there. Could you explain, do you have any recollection of why the media was there?
Pass.
Correct.
Can you tell us why the media was there?
Este para shkur esse delegacion.
This was before the delegation traveled, I think.
Yes, and do you recall that Mr. Thaçi had come to seek your consent as the overall commander to sign the Rambouillet Agreement, which only days earlier at the commemoration of Adem Yashari, you had said you opposed? Do you recall that?
This was a formal meeting. We met in Ladros before they left to Rambouillet.
Talked to you, and he also spoke to Fatmir Limay, asking you to give your consent to sign the Rambouillet Agreement. Is that fair?
Okay, Pasha.
Yes, that's clear.
It's fair to say that it was Mr. Thaçi looking for your consent and not you looking for his consent so that you could be the KLA commander. Correct?
Pasha.
That's correct.
Just a few more questions, Mr. Salimi. You were asked by His Honor Judge Bartha about a satellite phone when you were being questioned about a phone call you made to Ahmed Krasniqi with Mr. Shachiri present. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Who gave you a satellite phone?
I don't know.
Satellite phone.
After I was made elected commander of the zone.
Do you know when after?
Yes. Yeah, no kiedyś.
No, I don't.
Now, Judge Bartha also asked you questions about your testimony under my cross-examination about the discussion to arrest the members of the General Staff. Now, on Tuesday, when I asked you whether you believed you had the power to arrest members of the General Staff, you responded as follows, and this is at transcript page 25090, lines 10 to 17. Quote, question, now it's correct that this incident demonstrates that the command of the Drenica zone believed it had the authority to arrest these three gentlemen if they decided they needed to be arrested. That's right, isn't it? And your answer was, not only against these three persons in particular, or anyone else, but the zone commander had full responsibility and authority to take action, and the zone commander took responsibility for this with the brigade commanders at the time. I then followed up with you in a question that's on transcript page 25091, lines 7 to 10, to make sure your position was perfectly clear. Question, the fact that there was even a discussion about arresting three members of the General Staff suggests that you believe the Drenica zone commander had the authority to arrest these three members of the General Staff. That's right, isn't it? And your answer was, I had the authority for the Drenica operational zone. Do you recall giving that evidence?
Paul?
Yes.
The Drenica zone command was even having a meeting to discuss the arrest of these three members of the General Staff demonstrates that you believed that the Drenica zone operational command had the authority to arrest them in the Drenica operational zone.
Mr. Misetić, excuse me for interrupting, but could you please, in fairness to the witness, also read to the witness what he said in answer to my response to my question?
I'm getting to that.
Yes.
That's where I'm going to conclude.
Yes.
Can I have an answer to this question first, though?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. That's correct, isn't it? You believed within the Drenica operational zone, as you told me on Tuesday, that the Drenica Zone Operational Command had the authority to arrest 3 members of the General Staff, correct?
First of all, no meeting was held to arrest members of the General Staff. Secondly, with respect to the zone had its competencies in the operational zone, the Drenica zone. With respect to arresting the members of the General Staff, he did not have this authority, this competence, or their detention. Nor was it ever, no meeting was ever held to arrest them.
We went through this on Tuesday. I even identified who the particular members of the command were present at a meeting, and you confirmed many of the people.
Correct.
Where it was discussed.
Correct. But not to arrest them.
What was the discussion then? What were you going to do with them?
In order to seek many more clarifications, to have consultations, but not to arrest them.
The transcript is what it is from Tuesday, and we'll review it. But now to get to Judge Bartha's point, he asked you specifically whether there were any regulations that allowed you to arrest members of the general staff. Do you recall him asking that question?
Paul?
Yes.
Regulations that allowed it, correct?
Excuse me again for interrupting, but the answer was no, I did not have such powers or instructions or regulations available. This is what he said in answer to my question.
Yes, but your question was...
He spoke of powers, and I was asking him before that, I was asking him whether he was entitled to arrest members of the General Staff.
Well, I think then I'll read the full, because you specifically used the word regulations.
Yes, I used the word regulations, but the witness said, I read it again, no, I did not have such powers or instructions or regulations available, and he said it again.
Okay. Now, witness, you also did not have powers, regulations, or instructions that allowed you to arrest civilians. Is that correct?
Correct.
That civilians weren't arrested, does it?
Paul?
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon?
Thank you, Honours. Mr. Salimi, I have a few further questions arising to ask you. Just launching off that last answer that you gave, because this was a matter that was raised by Judge Bartha. Can I just confirm that it's correct that you didn't have any regulations from the General Staff or otherwise on how to detain persons, who was responsible, what the role of the military police was, or others in that process? Is that right?
Paul?
That's right.
So you had nothing in writing or orally from the General Staff on that subject?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
I want to then go on to another matter that was raised by Judge Bartha in his questions. and this was at page 83 yesterday of the provisional transcript, where His Honour was asking you questions about whether or not you had talked to Mr. Vasili about the events. And I'll refer here to the events concerning person 1. I will go into private session a bit later for a few other questions where details might come out. But for now, I'll keep it general, that you had no conversations with Mr. Vasili about the allegations in respect of person 1, and that you don't recall having a conversation with anyone about it when you asked those questions by Judge Barter. Do you remember that?
Paul?
Yes.
And you were also shown a paragraph 76 of your prep note, where you had stated that you were looking to contact Mr. Getzi in order to say that they should not stay in the Drenica area any longer. Do you remember that being put to you?
Paul?
Yes.
Is it right that when you spoke to Mr. Getzi and Mr. Haxa or others, depending who you say you spoke to, that you did tell them that they had to leave your zone?
Paul?
Yes.
They, in fact, did do so. Mr. Getzi went off to Albania. We've seen in the evidence what he was up to there, but he left and went to Albania, didn't he?
Yeah, and of course.
It's not that he left, he fled, but Mr. Getzi stayed for some more time because he was seriously wounded. Whereas Mr. Haja went back to his zone. Mr. Getzi received medical treatment and needed assistance in his movements because this was a area where the fighting was going on. It was only after that he went to Albania.
I'm not going to repeat it, but he did end up going to Albania, as you've now confirmed with us. That's right, isn't it?
Paul?
Yes. That's correct.
Is it accurate to say that in your mind you believed you had dealt with the problem? Mr. Haxa had gone and Mr. Getzi went off to Albania. So they were no longer in your zone. You had resolved the issue. Is that right?
Paul?
Yes.
So there was no need to raise it with anyone else. You had taken care of it. Is that correct?
Paul? Sir?
Yes, correct.
Now we know that this matter reared its head again in 2002, 2003, when UNMIC commenced their investigation. That was the next time it came up. Wasn't that correct?
Paul?
Correct.
Conduct a full investigation into this matter, as far as you know. They interviewed you. We know, we've seen your statement there. They interviewed Mr. Getzi as well, didn't they?
Paul?
Yes.
Thank you. I now want to come to a matter that was addressed by Judge Metro, where questions were asked, and this is at page 16 about what you were really up to in the 6 weeks when you were the overall commander of the General Staff. Do you remember being asked about who you'd contacted, what orders you'd issued, and the like? Did you answer that? Do you remember
You have to give
addressing
him a
those
bit.
matters?
He's still listening to the translation.
Sorry for jumping in.
Under hur en köpsekvar måste göra med här med.
If you could please repeat the question.
And that was probably something that interfered then with the translation. I was just asking whether you remember His Honour Judge Matro's questions earlier on, where you were asked about what you were doing in the 4, 5, 6 weeks that you held the position of commander of the KLA.
På?
Right. Now, I want to ask you.
Yes.
I want to ask you, in that time, we know the Rambouillet talks were going on, but it's correct, isn't it, that the fighting hadn't stopped in that period?
På?
Yes.
The VJ forces still had bases in Kosovo, and they were deploying, including in Drenica, where you were.
Yes, correct.
And is it correct that during that time, the Serbian forces did carry out offensives in Drenica, where they attacked and burnt several villages, including Prekas itself?
Objection beyond the scope of judge's questions.
Sustained.
Yona, I'm trying to establish what he was doing in that time.
Well, I know, but that doesn't... Ask him a question about what he was doing then.
Well, I was about to come on to that. I was just setting the foundation. My question is, and I'll move on, Your Honours, is were you dealing in that period with the Serbian offensives that were taking place in Kosovo, and in particular in Drenica at that time?
Yes, correct. I took part in the fighting.
Yes, can you assist us where you were participating in fighting in that period, in that 6-week period, please?
The fighting took place mostly around the village of Likots, Obri, where the Serbian forces penetrated with heavy weaponry, also from the direction of Baic. And I remember that I was in these positions, and also in Terdevs. I remember vividly Terdevs, where I was together with a group of soldiers and a tank entered the courtyard, and fierce fighting ensued.
You were both commanding soldiers at that time and also fighting yourself, is that right?
Yes. Every time I was able to, and every time there was fighting going on, I took part in the fighting.
Would it be accurate to say that during that time, that 4 to 6 weeks, most of your time was spent on the fighting, preparing and engaging in these battles?
Yes.
So you didn't have time to look at restructuring the general staff or getting information about what each and every person was doing. Would that be a fair assessment?
Correct.
And this fighting went on right up until the NATO bombing commenced in late March. Is that right?
Bob?
Yes.
That's why the NATO... Sorry.
Correct.
In fact, that's why the NATO bombing started, was to seek to end the ongoing conflict that was taking place on the ground. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
Now, you said in answer to Judge Gaynor that this word, or these words, you say, in wartime we're using this big word, general staff. This was at page 39, line 11. Do you remember saying that early on?
Yes, correct.
What did you mean by referring to the general staff as this big word?
If you allow me to expand a little bit, to explain this to the judges and to you, the term general staff implies a big thing. And at first glance, one would think of a staff where many people work with premises filled with operation rooms and with a chief of operations, a professional team that is handling the situation on the ground, distributing orders and tasks, a staff where should be between 60 and 100 people working. This would be the case in our time now, but during the war, we're talking about a staff which I would say was nearly inexistent. It was more of a political nature rather than an operational staff with permanent members or members that are identifiable, with a structure and an operation room and officers handling this war situation. Unfortunately, we did not have this. I never saw this level of organization of this structure. As a result of this, many zone commanders on the ground had to take their own decisions, react to the situation and adapt to the circumstances on the ground in wartime. Unfortunately, we needed logistical, operational support, including with officers, technical support, but we did not have that. We often refer to the general staff, members of the general staff, but we didn't even know the whereabouts of the members of the general staff. They were either abroad, or even on those occasions when I tried to meet with them, it was very difficult. So the connection between the general staff and the zones was such a problem that the zones had to take their own decisions and organize, instruct, or engage in combat themselves and take care of the soldiers and the civilians present at the time. I made this analogy with the permission of the court. I draw this comparison meaning that during the war there was a staff referred to itself as such, which tried at times to support us, like with professional officers. But there were a number of difficulties. As I explained, they did not have the capabilities, the experience, or the qualifications to provide this support. This was the difficulty between the members of the General Staff and the zone commanders who faced combat, fighting, and personnel-related matters.
Mr. Salimi, I think that's clear. Can I ask whether you agree with me then that the General Staff was really only a staff in name? Really what it came down to was it depended on who from the staff was there at the time, who you were able to see, who you were able to communicate with to get the job done.
Your Honor, that's a compound question, the way that it's raised. We'd object.
Might break that up a little bit, please, Mr. Dixon.
Yes, I will.
Just direct questions.
Yes, a direct question would be, would you agree with me that the General Staff was really just a staff in name, that it depended rather on the individuals and whether you had contact with them or not?
Objection compound.
That's all right. Try to answer it. It's still complicated, overly complicated, Mr. Dixon.
Was the General Staff really just a staff in name? Let's start there. Do you agree with me?
The General Staff did have its name, and at face value, you'd think of a grand edifice. And I would have wished so much for it to have been the case during the war. Unfortunately, the possibilities were not there. We did not have a staff that would be able to support the operational zones. It was a staff that consisted of some members who you were more likely to never meet than to meet, so it was not functional from that point of view, as I stated earlier.
Part of my question, you've highlighted it there. So it depended really on whether the person was there in your presence, whether you could then meet with them, communicate with them, and try and get the job done. That's how it worked in reality, isn't it? Correct?
The war effort depended on the people who you knew and who were close by you. I'm referring here to the Drenica operational zone. I had been lucky enough to have known the brigade commanders from early on. They were my friends. And I was also fortunate enough to be at the head of the Drenica operational zone, where a number of Adem's co-fighters and the founders of the KLA were there alongside me. Even though we sustained heavy losses in Drenica, I was very proud to have been at the forefront and at the head of the Drenica operational zone to the best of my ability.
The question Mr. Dixon gives you.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Salimi. I'm going to move on to, I think, a question that can be dealt with swiftly. That's something that was asked by His Honour Judge Gaynor at page 38 of today's transcript. This was where you were asked about the differences between ZKZ, SHIK, and G2. Do you remember that?
Well,
yes.
clarify with you is, as you recall it, it's right, isn't it, that ZKZ was the military intelligence in the KLA, and that was in existence at the time when you were at the zone level and also when you were the overall commander.
Well,
Yes.
From that, SHIK, the Kosovo civilian intelligence, that formed in April of 1999.
pause. Suck.
Yes, correct.
They were different bodies. ZKZ military was distinct and separate from SHIK in April 1999.
Pause. Suck.
Yes, correct.
SHIK was formed, that's the civilian intelligence, in April 1999. The ZKZ military intelligence continued to exist in the KLA at that time.
Pause. Suck.
Yes, correct.
Not commanded by Mr. Vasily, that's the ZKZ, it was commanded by somebody new who'd been appointed.
Your Honor's questions were about the terminology. We're going beyond the scope of it now.
You are getting a bit
Yes.
far removed from the questions that the judges asked.
The questions were, I think, trying to clarify whether there was a difference in the use of the terms. And I'm trying to get the witness from his understanding, because he was there, to explain what they meant at that time. In particular...
Well, ask him a direct question, and let's see where we go from there.
Thank you, Honor. Particularly in March... yes.
Something short and concise, please.
Yes. Mr. Slavia, a short question. The military ZKZ continued in the KLA in April 1999. That's right.
Suck.
Yes, correct.
By Mr. Kadri Vasily, was it?
Objection beyond the scope of judges' questions.
Overruled. You can answer that.
Pause. Sucked.
Yes, correct.
Right. Thank you. I'm going to move on now to a final topic, Your Honours. So we will finish soon. I just wanted to go into private session for that, for the protection of a person.
Into private session, please, Madam Court Officer.
Your Honors, we're in public session.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Mr. Roberts, any questions?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Ms. Alkendra?
Very few, Your Honor. Mr. Salimi, Judge Metro had referred you to paragraph 13 of the preparation note 1, where it records you as saying that Adam Jashari was receiving orders from the General Staff. Now, your evidence today was that that is wrong. Adam Jashari did not receive orders from the General Staff, but he issued orders or consulted with the General Staff with those individuals that were known to him. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
I want to say that Adam Jashari was not in a position to be given orders. He was the principal commander. That's correct, isn't it?
That's correct.
A video clip by Judge Metro of your interview with the ICTY, and if I can read what the transcript here shows. Now that's page 12, lines 2 to 8. It says this, and you were asked, okay, but then did Adam Jashari, then did he have a contact or reporting responsibility to the General Staff? Do you know about this? And your response at line 5 is, he had continual contacts with the General Staff, he was in frequent contact with them, and the members of the General Staff also consulted Adam, always because he was the main figure in the army, the central figure. Now, so it's correct, isn't it, Mr. Salimi, that the General Staff was consulting with Adam Jashari as the main commander, not the other way around?
I don't know how to make it simpler. Adam Jashari was the principal commander, the top commander. And it is normal for him to have conversations with other members of the General Staff. Any patriot, anyone who would be keen to contribute to the liberation of the country, he would speak to all of them. Adam Jashari was the main figure of the Kosovo Liberation Army, the emblem. The General Staff as such existed, but the principal personality there is Adam Jashari.
Yes. Now, at lines 16 to 23 of page 12 of today's transcript, I'm just reading back what was recorded in the transcript here. You were asked from that video clip, it appears that you were asked, okay, but the General Staff had do you think they had a plan or they had control over what was happening in the different areas, like in Lap, Dukajin, Trinitsa? And your answer on that video clip, just so you understand me clearly, Mr. Salimi, your answer on the video clip as recorded here is naturally there was some coordination. For example, legendary Commander Adam Jashari, he would give us the orders. So simply put, Mr. Salimi, what you're telling us is that Adam Jashari reported to nobody. It was Adam Jashari that issued the orders, that would give out orders. Am I correct?
Yes, correct.
Now, you were asked by Judge Bartha about your criticisms of Jakub Krasniqi and Sokol Bashota yesterday. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That, in your opinion, they were unprofessional, they had no military experience, right? And I just want to be clear, your criticism, am I right, of Jakub Krasniqi was that he was not an appropriate person to hold the title of deputy commander because he was an unprofessional, he had no military experience, and in your opinion, he had no operational or commanding functions. Is that correct? That was your criticism, yes?
Bossa.
Yes, correct.
Thank you, Ms. Alejandro.
I think we've lost the transcript.
We'll see if we can get it back. We don't have much left here.
It's back. It's back.
Okay, we're on again. Wait till it catches up. Mr. Salimi, your time here is finished. I'm sure you're glad to hear that. We thank you for being with us these last few days. You may leave the courtroom now. You've satisfied your obligation to this court. We wish you well. And thank you to you.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Dixon.
If we do have a quick moment, yeah, forcing me to perhaps ask one of the more difficult issues in relation to timetabling, because we are racing towards the 4th of April. I know we're looking at next week and the weeks after, but whether there has been any movement and when we can expect any decisions on timetabling beyond the end of the prosecution case, because plans have to be made with regard to various matters and half-time submissions and the like. So we would be eager to know.
We will hold, when and if the prosecution rests, we will immediately hold a status conference. We can't make very good plans until we know what the defense plans are following a prosecution rest.
Yes.
So we will do our best as soon as we can to get that information and give some timetables to it all.
Yes, I mean,
we can't do it today because we don't know what your intentions are.
No, I certainly wasn't asking for rulings today, but we had set out some timetabling options for periods for filing half-time submissions and responses.
And that we will put together in one order as soon as possible, but it's limited to how much we can put into it. But I understand your request, and we'll do our best to inform you. Thank you again.
Thank you,
yes, Mr. Laws. And I know you have the need to advise your expert up some time as well. Go ahead.
You're almost ahead of me. I have two filings relating to protective measures which are pending. They're both ex parte, in fact, but I think I can speak about them relatively freely. I'm so sorry. Thank you. I've got two filings related to protective measures pending. They're both ex parte filings, but I think I can speak about them relatively freely. I'm happy to do so, yes.
That's probably the safest bet. Into private session, please.
Your Honor, we're in public session.
Go ahead, Mr. Ellis.
Your Honour, I'm grateful. I was just wondering if the prosecution had any opportunity to give any further update on the witnesses for next week and the likely sitting schedule. I think Your Honours will perceive that the interest is in relation to what days we're likely to be sitting, and that will affect travel plans for team members.
Well, I believe the statement this morning was there's one witness next week and it'll be on Tuesday.
Correct, Your Honor.
I would still urge the efforts to try to find somebody else so we don't waste that time, but you can't do what you can't do.
Thank you.
We'll see you Tuesday at 9 a.m.
All rise.
We're adjourned.